Hey guys and gals, Griever here, bringing you guys a movie review, and it's spoiler heavy, as you can no doubt tell from the title. We will be talking about Avengers Endgame. Now, this being the fourth and final film in the, phase, whatever you want to call it, the Infinity Saga, the Phase 3, the 22nd, I believe, movie in the big Marvel Cinematic Universe franchise, is pretty bloody brilliant. There are things that I personally would have done differently, but that doesn't stop the film from being great overall. So just so we're clear as we go through this review, which I think I'm actually going to try to keep relatively short, this film, it did a lot of things right, and there were a lot of tear-jerking moments, a lot of heartfelt moments, and a lot of callbacks to old films, and just so much that I really, really enjoyed. But there were also some things I didn't enjoy. Nonetheless, let's just go through the things that I thought were incredible. Once again, spoilers. The characterization of Thor being probably my favorite Avenger, was, a lot of people are kind of on the fence about that. Some people are saying yes, some people are saying nay, some people like some parts of it and not others. I'm one of those people totally on the fence, because for every scene where I thought Thor was perhaps mistreated, there was other scenes where I thought it worked out beautifully. Infinity War was a fantastic film, was probably the better of all four current Avengers films, and I just saw Avengers Endgame, and I can say that. I think Infinity War was such a great film. But here, at the very beginning of the film, they leave nothing to chance. It's only been, a couple of weeks, and they just jump right into it. The whole hype about what's going to happen to Robert Downey Jr., when are they going to find him sort of idea, when are they going to find Tony Stark, drifting out in space and stuff. That's taken care of. That's completely taken care of very, very quickly. We introduced Brie Larson as Captain Marvel into the Avengers films, and actually I believe that she filmed these scenes before doing the Captain Marvel film, so that's kind of funky a little bit. But apparently the characterization's fine and everything. And that's actually the one film in the franchise I have not seen, was the Captain Marvel film. Simply, it didn't really interest me that much. I'll eventually see it anyways. But here, they bring Nebula and Robert Downey Jr. back, and Tony Stark back to, Avengers headquarters. We see that Pepper is still alive. We see that a lot of the characters are still alive. We saw who was killed at the end of Infinity War. But they basically sit there. Tony Stark is just done with everything. He's just saying, no, we lost. He's like, we're going to lose together. So we're the Avengers. We need something to avenge. Well, here's something. We lost, and he's so done with everything that happened. And anyway, in the end, he just stays out of the coming battle, the battle against Thanos. Now, when they show up on the planet that he made his retirement home, which we again saw in the trailer, he had the limp and everything. This is very shocking and very surprising, and I think it works great as an opening scene. We know the stakes is that they find the big bad guy, and Thor, in a great moment, goes for the head and kills the big bad guy. He cuts off his arm, getting rid of the Infinity Gauntlet, which they think, will help, but they don't realize at the time that Thanos has destroyed the Infinity Stones. And, because he's ready. Thor's sitting there, he's kind of sulking and everything, and he's just ready to fight. He goes up to basically Captain Marvel and stuff, and they kind of have their little thing, and he brings Stormbringer into his hands, and he says, I like her. Let's go do this. I need to kill the Mad Titan. And he does. I believe it was Thor that cut off his arm anyway. I know for a fact he cut off his head in reference to the fact that Thanos said you should have gone for the head at the end of Infinity War. And that's when he, chops his head off, and they said, I went for the head. And then he, kind of walks out the door like Thor did the right thing. He killed the Mad Titan. But it's too late. And that's what everybody realizes. Thanos says, they're like, you're a liar. We read your signature. You used the Infinity Stones not 2 days ago. And Thanos used the Infinity Stones to destroy the Infinity Stones. He had fixed his problems. He did what he wanted to do, which is still something up for debate whether it was the right or wrong thing. That's a big debatable thing in the community. But at this moment, that's when just everything fades to black, and we have 5 years later, and everything has moved on. Everything's gone, in totally directions that we didn't even realize were possible. And at the end of the day, they're still trying to cope with the world the way it is. Clearly, humanity has survived a certain level of destruction. I mean, we even see in San Francisco, they set up a bunch of these, the vanished, like memorial plaques. And people are there grieving and stuff. And it's a really big, like, every moment in this film feels like a bit of a, like you're waiting for that, okay, what's going to happen here type of moment. Some of them pay off, some of them don't. But at the end of the day, like that opening scene was just perfect. Thor did his duty, and that's why in the coming scenes with Thor, let's just talk about Thor right now, so we can get on to other parts. For everyone who saw the film, we all know that Thor basically ended up. He got his long hair back, he got a huge beard, but he also got a gut. He's been drinking beer for 5 years. He's just been constantly drinking and playing video games and stuff, and when Hulk, who, we have the Professor Hulk persona from the comic books, which is the version of Bruce Banner's intelligence meets Hulk's strength, and he becomes he almost looks like a smaller Hulk, but he's still the Hulk sort of idea. And once everyone meets up and Paul Rudd as Ant-Man comes back through the quantum thing from Ant-Man and the Wasp and everything and goes, what about time travel? We might be able to finally fix this. We see that everyone's been going on with their lives. They first go to Robert Downey Jr. And Tony Stark, and they find out he's got a daughter and all this stuff, and he just wants nothing to do with it. He's like, no, let's not talk shop. I'm done. We're not doing a Back to the Future here. You're hinging your whole thing on a Terminator film, a Back to the Future, and there's quibs in there and such, but he's just done with it. When they go to get Thor, we see what he's like. He's established New Asgard in Norway on Earth. But the Asgardians, they look like rundown rednecks. They just do. They look like a bunch of tired old fishermen, not the great people, the great pinnacle that they once used to be. And Rocket even says, this is pretty far shy from a Golden Palace sort of idea. Valkyrie's alive, and they talk to her a bit, and they see all the amount of beer he's been drinking. And they go up there. This scene, a lot of people dislike. I really like this scene because it shows, some people are saying that the PTSD, which was a character arc for Tony Stark's character, which was taken very seriously with the panic attacks and stuff, is given a humorous component, given a lighthearted feel, and Thor is being made of a bit of a joke in this film. There are times where that happens, and that's why I'm so on the fence whether I like the direction this character went, because it does change the character drastically. However, this scene is great because Hulk mentions Thanos, and he goes up to him, and he's just, he grabs his shirt, and you see his hand shaking the whole time, and just says, "Don't mention that name." And the other two guys, the Rock guys, I forget what their names are. They're just like, "Oh yeah, we don't say his name here. That's a big rule. We don't." And Hulk slowly take your hand off me sort of idea. And Thor hesitates, but then he does, and he says, who did their job? Who did it? I did. I already killed the Mad Titan. I did my job. But of course, see, he's suffering because it was too little, too late. He got to the Mad Titan, 3 weeks later, but it didn't matter. And that's something that's not seen in a lot of movies, in a lot of shows and stuff, is that usually when you get the big bad guy and you kill him, that solves the problem. But the damage has been done, and nothing they do can reverse the damage. And Thor basically just took it out on Thanos, who, got rid of the Mad Titan, but what did that accomplish? It did nothing. And he's living with he's living with half a universe death on his shoulders that he didn't go for the head. So these scenes, these just glibs of these quick little instances of him being super emotional is so well done, and he's drinking like a lot of alcoholics and drunks do to, cover that up and still try to pretend to have fun and be himself. But he's not. He even says, what killed Thanos? Stormbringer. And who wields Stormbringer? He's justifying himself that he's still the hero. He's still the one that killed Thanos. He's still the savior, but it doesn't really amount to anything. It's a wonderful scene that I really enjoyed in that little cabin that he has in New Asgard. And then we get other like instances of this, like when they do get, we're jumping ahead a bit here, but they get all the Infinity Stones together after a while and stuff, and he's got the moment with his mother and all that stuff, and we see, and that's a scene that's sort of made fun of with Rocket and stuff, and him like slapping him, he's having a panic attack, he slaps him sort of idea. People are saying that's part of the problem, and sure, that scene kind of flips it, but he gets some, a boost from his mother. His mother's been dead. Remember, this guy's been through hell. He's literally been through everything. Death of his planet, death of his people, death of his father, death of his mother, death of half the people he was meant to save after the end of all that, and now he couldn't even, and then when he finally had the next chance to save someone, and in fact half the universe, he missed, pretty much. So he's had quite a troubled time, and so they have that scene with his mother, and she's consoling him and stuff, and trying to explain to him what he should be doing, not what he can be doing, that kind of stuff. The mom talk. Sometimes we all need that. And at the end of the day, he calls back in this reality, of course, in this time, the Mjolnir, the hammer, is still there. So he calls to it, waits, and he gets the hammer back, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of cool. So I'm thinking, okay, where is Stormbringer? But he does bring up Stormbringer, so that's still cool. And, there's a lot of other reasons to have that hammer back. But it's cool that callback Thor's hammer is now finally returned to him. And that's when we do get, when they get all the stones together. And here we have a great scene. Another great scene. For all the other scenes leading up to this, this is a fantastic scene with Thor, where he says, like, I'm the strongest Avenger, I'll do it, sort of idea. And even to this point, he still is the God of Thunder. He still has that power, and it was proven when he went time traveling and he got the hammer to call to it, like he called the hammer and it came to him, he still has the power, he's still worthy, and as we saw in Thor 3 Ragnarok, that power has always been inside of him anyways, and he can still unleash it. Though, for certain reasons, in a minute, I'm going to say why I still believe he is out of shape in more ways than one. Not just in appearance, but actually in strength and, stamina and power as a result of this. But, I mean, even an Asgardian, even a Norse god can't drink away for 5 years, no training, no fighting, and be, not be a little rusty. But it's a scene where he says, like, I'll do it sort of idea. And he goes up to Tony Stark and he says, no. You have to let me do this. I have to do this. Like, and he's shaking, and he's always on this in certain scenes. Chris Hemsworth does an amazing job where he's always just about to break. You're not sure if he's going to, like, blow the place up or going to break down and cry. And you're not sure because he's just teetering on that edge. And this scene, even though it was great for Hulk, I really think Thor should have been the one, because remember, he feels the weight of the responsibility, because he was the only one out of everyone who had the one chance to actually kill him. In any of the battles in Infinity War, the one true shot that anybody actually got off on him, and if it had been a foot higher, would have stopped everything. So, and he's been the one living with the guilt, and he is a powerful Avenger, and we see later on what it does when a human. That's why it was weird when I found it up for debate. I'm like, do any of the humans here, like, I know, Captain America, you're superhuman and all that stuff, but do any of the humans here think that they can snap and survive? Like, that's not, like, does anybody think that? So it was going to be down to people like Hulk and Thor, and though it would take away a moment from Professor Hulk, I really think they should have given the opportunity to Thor. That felt like a waste of a moment, and he could have had a bit of a bigger monologue in regards to this, and Hulk could have came up and said what he said, but then Thor could have, like, went up to Hulk and basically had like a bromance moment like they did in Ragnarok sort of idea, and basically say, like, I have to do this, and explain that you were right back in the cabin, you were right, about this, that, and the other thing. But now I have a second chance. After all the crap, I have a second chance, and it wasn't brought up. Then the final battle happens and stuff, but and he's dual-wielding Stormbreaker. He gets his stuff back. He's still Fat Thor, which a lot of people find off-putting, and at some moments I do too. He gets his beard all done like a Norse god, and his hair's all tied up, and he looks pretty cool, but he's still fat Thor, so it's kind of takes away from it a little bit. But he's dual wielding, the hammer and the axe, and it looks awesome. And he calls all the lightning and thunder down, and he's ready to take the fight to Thanos, sort of idea. And it's Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor, the three Avengers sort of idea, the three title characters with the three trilogies going at him, and really cool fight and everything. So yeah, that's basically my thoughts on what's going on with Thor. The ending part of Thor being part of the Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff fits. It makes sense, and I'm good with it. I like it. I like the dynamic, and I hope in Guardians 3 that, of course, Chris Hemsworth reprises his role and stuff. It would be a shame if he didn't. I really hope he does, and I hope there is another Thor film, because I really like Thor films. Even The Dark World, it's not as bad as people like to make it out to be. I can think of a couple worse MCU movies. And yeah, so other moments that I really... So that's my opinion, because that's a big thing about this film, is everyone's talking, it seems, about Thor and his drastic character change. And I'm just trying to defend certain moments. Yes, in between this, we have a bunch of silly scenes, and even if they're good for fun, it might be an insult to you as a portrayal of the character. To me, there was some, as I said, in the final battle against Thanos, it ends up being Captain America using the hammer and stuff, and that's supposed to be a really big moment set up in Age of Ultron, as we know, with the party scene sort of idea. And I don't really have much of a problem of Captain America using it, and I understand that this is supposed to be like both Iron Man's send-off and Captain America's send-off, Steve Rogers' finale. So it makes sense that they would both get so much more big moments and screen time rather than Thor and stuff. But because we don't really know if Chris Hemsworth is going to continue his role or not. Is there going to be another Thor film? And when there is another Guardians film, which has been set up beautifully, will he be in it, sort of idea? So that's left more ambiguous, where the other two kind of have their finale. And I'm sitting here just going like even though Thor's like having a great moment, like I knew you could do it, buddy, sort of idea. As I said about the out of shape thing, I feel like Thor, with the dual wielding powers and all the power he had in Ragnarok, he should have been doing far more damage. It felt like a 1v1 Captain America versus Thanos thing, and basically borrowing Thor's powers in a cool moment at the time, but looking back, I know what happens in the comic, guys, and I know that's the big thing. Captain America can lift Thor's hammer, but it felt like, okay, Thor was fighting, and then he's just like, okay, yeah, like now Captain America's fighting with Thor's powers, and it's just okay, like I'm sitting there kind of like that's not as cool as the three-way Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America all fighting Thanos together and doing damage together, because it didn't really seem like anybody was doing any really lasting damage up until Captain America was using Thor's hammer, which Thor had both of them. So this is where I'm saying that I'm just going to chalk it up to the fact that Thor is out of shape. That's what I have to chalk it up to, because it just doesn't make any sense to me that Captain America would be able to land all these crazy blows. It was a cool fight scene, but he's able to do that with Thor's one hammer, while Thor had both weapons and didn't really land any big blows on the guy. So anyways, that's just my thoughts on Thor. Wow, this has already been running pretty long. So let's get to the other things. Before we do the actual ending, we got, I already talked about the big moment, Captain America lifting the hammer. That was a big thing. I liked it for the sake of the fans and stuff that enjoy it. I don't think it was necessary. It was a cool moment for the films, and it was set up in Age of Ultron. It was foreshadowed, so I'm okay with that. Once again, I felt it was too lengthy and too much of a 1v1 with Thor's powers, but the moment itself was still awesome. When we see he's there with the shield and the hammer and everything, and he's using the lightning powers. It still is really epic. Also reminiscent is the elevator scene with the now known Hydra agents. Is just absolutely incredible, calling back to something that was hated in the comics and using it in an incredible way for Captain America to lean over and do his whole Hail Hydra thing, like the smack talk of saying Hail Hydra, because it was such a controversial moment a couple of years back in the comics for him to do that a lot of fans hated. Here it's twisted around in such a beautiful, perfect way. I just really like that too. The idea, we see a bunch of characters again and stuff. The time travel thing being brought up and done in a very interesting way, and they don't waste time in this movie. It's a 3-hour movie, but they don't waste time. We see that, Tony Stark is happy, but he can't stop being Iron Man at the end of the day, because he figures out time travel, and they're all trying to figure it out, and he said, I don't want to help, like, I have my family, I know, the world sucks, but it's been 5 years, let's move on, sort of idea, we have to. And Pepper looks at him, and this has been a character arc for her as well, through the other Iron Man films, being like, with remember the big Iron Man army and stuff, and she basically says, like, because he says, well, I can take this, like, I can solve it, but I really, part of me wants to take it, throw it at the bottom of the lake, lock and key, never go get it, and go to bed. And she brings out the best. Nobody's talking about this scene, but this is perfect because it sets up the end, where she says, that's great that you want to do that, but would you be able to get any rest? Would you, would it really matter at the end of the day? And that's set up beautifully for the end part of the film, when, as we all know, Tony Stark dies and stuff, and he has his moment with Rhodey, he has his moment with, a couple of moments with, of course, Spider-Man, and then she says, it's okay, we'll be okay now, you can rest. And that's a callback to that scene, when nobody talks about the setup scene, which I don't know why, it seems, but I recognized it immediately, and I was like, that's perfect, because finally, they're willing to let him go stuff. He did his job. He's been Iron Man and Tony Stark this whole time, and he's able to finally rest. So that was really nice. Actually, a lot of the scenes were just there's so much to talk about, so much to unpack. Big moments, the female Avengers all teaming up, sort of, I think, but Xing Natasha, of course, because she in the end ended up dying, sort of idea. And this is something that I didn't know. And another great scene was, once again, my favorite Avenger, Thor, is at the lakeside. When they get all the stones back, they realize Natasha had to be sacrificed for the Black Widow had to be sacrificed for the Soul Stone, and they're sitting there and they're going kind of like, oh well, like, everyone's just like, she's gone, there's nothing we can do. And you see that Captain America's crying, and Hawkeye's just there, and Hulk's throwing benches across the lake, and Thor's just kind of like, what are you all talking about? Because we have the Infinity Stones, we have them, and like, you're all human. You don't understand. I'm a cosmic being. I am way more powerful than you, and you do. This is space magic. This is stuff beyond. We have time warping and reality warping and mind control and all this crazy power. We have the ability, the same guy who basically snapped away half the life in the universe, and you're telling me we can't bring back one human soul, sort of idea. And that's when it's brought up. Yeah, it's true. They cannot. And Hulk confirms this when he says, after Hulk uses the gauntlet and says, I tried so hard to bring her back, but can't. So that kind of breaks my theory when I said Gamora is alive, sort of idea. They are technically alive. Gamora and Black Widow are technically alive in the Soul World, but nobody can really access the Soul World without the Soul Stone, sort of idea. And I doubt you can ever pull anybody out. The Red Skull made it pretty clear, sort of idea, that that's the way it works. Now, I don't know what would happen if you were to return the Soul Stone and trade the Soul Stone back for the life. That's kind of left up, but it's probably a one-way deal. You can't just, take the stuff back to the store for your refund, sort of idea. And Hawkeye basically says, why don't you get off your ass, get your axe, get your hammer, get whatever, and you go talk to the Red Skull guy, huh? How about you do that? And that's something I felt was missed out on. I wanted Red Skull and Captain America to meet up. For some reason, I thought that would be a much better exchange, and it didn't happen. Kind of weird. Captain Marvel's appearance, I'm glad she was kept out of the film as much as she was. That she's supposed to be the big, kind of the Silver Surfer character. She's supposed to be the one guarding all the galaxies and all the planets that have problems. Earth has basically you guys, sort of idea, because they even bring up, well, where were you? It's great for you to talk about, killing Thanos so easily, which we find out that she really meets her match in Thanos in their little scuffle. But it did feel kind of weird that she would not like, I was just glad she was kind of left out of the film for the most part, because her power and Thor being the way he was at the time made sense for his character. But Captain Marvel just coming in to solve all the problems wouldn't have worked either. So it was good that she was away for the majority of the film, so we could see the struggles and see the characters. And remember, this film is supposed to be about the original 6 Avengers. It's supposed to follow their story, and everyone else is basically just making cameos to set up the new films and such. So, and continue old films. So, as I said, I really, really enjoyed this film. There are some issues, as I said about before. I'm not the biggest fan of how the battle between the 3 Avengers plus Thanos went, or its conclusion with Captain America versus Thanos in the end doing actual damage. That felt off to me. What else? Yeah, Thor's character being mistreated in some scenes, but great acting in others. And it made sense to me anyways. Some of that stuff. What else is there to talk about? The ending, I guess, all the cameo appearances we get. The time travel is fantastic. A lot of the scenes, like Tony Stark meeting his father and stuff, that was really heartwarming and great. Captain America seeing Peggy, again, like seeing Margaret Carter. That's a huge thing and stuff. And of course the ending with them. There's just the time travel did really cool. I really love the New York thing with seeing all the Avengers take Loki in, and now Loki, not confirmed to be alive, but he grabbed the Tesseract in that particular time, so he escaped. There's a Loki alive somewhere, and I felt like I was waiting for Loki to show up in the battle. I really was, or I was waiting for Loki to be in an end credit scene, but that didn't really happen. Anyway, this review is running on long enough, so let's just go to the ending. The ending, of course, very, very sad, very heartfelt, and I hear it was a bit of a tearjerker for a lot of people. Unfortunately for me, I was sitting in this theater in the afternoon and stuff, and there was a lot of younger people, like teenagers, maybe high schoolers, something like that, junior high kids, and unfortunately, a lot of the tension was taken out because of some people, like there was a group next to me that were pretty good throughout the film, but they were commenting to their buddies and stuff and making quips and stuff, and that kind of took me out of the moment a little bit. There wasn't a whole lot of respect. Usually Canada's pretty good. I hear America can be bad for that. Usually Canada's pretty good, and I've never had this problem before, but I really, at times, especially in the ending and the really quiet moments, I got sucked out because people were talking. There were little kids there. So unfortunately, I'd like to sit down and see it again on my own time. When it comes out or something, I'll buy it and I'll just sit myself down and watch it again, sort of idea to see. Because I know, like, I felt so emotional, but it wasn't to that point that everyone's talking about, like everyone's just trying to hold in their tears and stuff. There was nothing coming for me, even with the flowers, going out with proof that Tony Stark has a heart. What else do we see? The moment with, well, there was this weird moment with Scarlet Witch and Clint with Hawkeye talking about like lost ones, and we're like, where even is Vision? And it's like, well, Vision didn't die from the snap, so he's not coming back and stuff. And it's like, oh, okay. I kind of forgot about that. Vision won't be coming back. And apparently, once again, as I said, the Soul World. So there is an alive Gamora. I knew there'd be a Gamora that was alive, but this Gamora has never met. Guardians 1 and 2 didn't happen with this Gamora. But she knows it's supposed to happen because Nebula. So that's a whole nother kettle of fish. When Doctor Strange, of course, does his like one thing sort of idea, the final battle with Thanos and everybody attacking, and I love Thanos' idea of, okay, Captain Marvel's powers, they are actually stronger than me, my physical strength with the Infinity. So he grabs a Power Stone and poof, just says, get out of here, sort of idea. And I'm like, that was intelligent, that was pretty cool. And we see them all fighting for the gauntlet, Black Panther, Spider-Man, everyone. Great moment between, Peter Parker and Tony Stark when he finally sees him again and gives him this crazy hug and stuff. And for them, it's been 5 seconds, right? They don't even realize what's happened, but they've all lived 5 years without these people, and it's just so heartwarming to see them all again, right? And then, of course, Tony Stark with his epic moment of, he grabbed the gauntlet off of Thanos, and this was the 1 in 14 million chance that they could win. And he goes, I am inevitable. And then, the one of the quotable lines, anyways, in the film is, I am Iron Man. And bam. And really cool callback to the first film that started it all. This could honestly be called the saga of Tony Stark, or the saga of Iron Man. This entire 22 films could be called that because it started with Iron Man and it all ended with Iron Man. And it's a great callback. Such a pregnant pause, though. I know that's what people use. I don't really like that term, but for that, I don't know. Same as like brain fart. I don't like that term either. But there's no other way to describe it. Super long pause between I am Iron Man. And you're just waiting. What is he going to say? And it was perfect. And, of course, we have his death scene, which is done very well. The funeral scene, we see this great shot with the camera just zooming in and out, going through all the different crowds, all the crowds standing there. You see the Avengers. You see, Hank Pym and all them, and the Ant-Man crowd. You see the Guardians of the Galaxy standing off on their own. And you see some people coming back. There's Brie Larson. There's, Samuel L. Jackson, Nick Fury's back there at the end. He doesn't have any speaking role. He's just there for the one showcase. We see, what is her name? The one from the original Avengers films with Agent Coulson. How I Met Your Mother, Robin from How I Met Your Mother. She's there. There's just a whole cast and crew of people, dedicated, there for Tony Stark's funeral. That's pretty emotional. I wasn't a huge fan. I didn't think the scene with the whole cheeseburger thing was necessary. Another callback to the fact that what he wanted was an American cheeseburger when he was taken, in the whole Iron Man in the first film. And he said, I want two things. I want a press conference and an American cheeseburger, right? So when his daughter, Morgan, says, like, what do you want? Happy asked, are you hungry? What do you want? And, I want a cheeseburger. And he said, I'll give you all the cheeseburgers you want, I know it was supposed to be played very emotionally, but the emotions more got to me with Tony Stark's actual death scene and the actual funeral. Those parts really were the ones that I felt. And then we have, Thor saying, okay, I'm going with the Guardians, and Valkyrie, you can be the king or the queen now because, that's who I'm supposed to be, but it's not who I am anymore, You've been leading them this whole time. He has recognized that she's been the one really leading and holding them all together. He's just been a drunken figurehead this whole time. There's just a lot we see. It's one of those things. It's a lot of people are calling it the Lord of the Rings, the Return of the King ending. And I never understand the complaints about Lord of the Rings because at the time, that was a huge, huge film trilogy undertaking with so many plot threads and characters that needed to be wrapped up properly. And I always loved the ending. Yes, it's a long ending, but it's also 14 hours of film with these characters. I mean, did you want it any less? So, in this way, I really enjoyed this ending too because the later half of the movie is pretty much a final battle and an ending. It did not feel as personal as Infinity War for me. And there's not as many quotable lines, I don't think, and stuff. Between the two right now, I'd have to put Infinity War above this film. And right now, it really does feel like the end of an era. This has been like 11 years. Something like that. It's been just over 11 years, from 2008 with Iron Man till now, 2019. And we're like, it's so huge. 22 films, so much crazy. No post-credit scene. And we have no idea what Phase 4 is going to hold. We know there's another Spider-Man film coming out. And, so there's what's going to happen now. I mean, I know Gwyneth Paltrow is supposed to leave. Chris Evans has confirmed that he doesn't really want to do it anymore. And this was actually one film beyond his obligation of his 6-film contract. Robert Downey Jr., of course, is supposedly done. Chris Hemsworth is up in the air, especially with the ending here with the Guardians, and we know there's supposed to be a Guardians 3, but that got all mixed up because of the, I believe, James Gunn or something like that. So there's a weird thing going on there on Twitter or something. But suffice it to say, I thought this ending was great. The Captain America, the passing of the shield, it was a great nod. Captain America delivers the stones back to the rightful places. Hulk told the Ancient One that they would do. And then we see that he doesn't come back right away, but then he's an old man and stuff. And at the end scene, he lived his life, the way he should have. He went back to 1945 or whatever, probably somewhere around there, and he got to spend time with, Peggy, and he got to live his life with her and such. And so there's potentially Captain America's kids and grandkids running around because he's an old man. Stan Lee cameo, of course, was good. And then, so it was a good idea to have both Bucky and Sam, because a lot of people were saying Falcon's going to get the shield or Bucky's going to get the shield, and a lot of people were voting for Bucky, but for some reason I thought it'd be Sam. I thought Sam would be the guy, right? And because I just felt like Bucky wasn't. He's got too much baggage with Bucky, whereas Falcon has always been there and stuff. I feel like more so, and so I guess the passing of the shield is now onto Falcon. So will he be Falcon anymore? Will he be Captain America with wings? This is a really new direction. Phase 4 is a totally new direction for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Anyways, guys, this review has gone on way longer than I thought. What did you guys think of the film? If you saw it, I would hope you did, because no Endgame spoilers, guys. I stayed off Discord, the internet, Facebook, YouTube, strictly for uploads and such. I made sure to not check out anything, and that's why I made sure to go see it this weekend, because don't spoil the Endgame, man. Like, it's such, we're talking 11 years of wait. To spoil it for anybody would just be, like, what a dick move. Like, just too much of a dick move. So, that being said, guys, what did you guys think of Endgame? If you saw it, what do you think of the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole? Where do you think the direction is going to go? And did you have any problems with the film? As I said, the film, 3 hours of spectacular film. Still a great film to me. I really did love the film. It's not as a well-rounded, almost perfect film for me like Infinity War. Whereas in Infinity War, I see very little flaw. For me personally, for a personal standpoint, I saw very little flaws, if any, for me. And this film, as I already pointed out, I picked up on a few. And I felt like there should have been callbacks to maybe, characters like, if they're going to go back in time, it could have been Odin could have been there. Loki disappeared with the Tesseract. Would have been cool to see him come back and mention that, Thor, you got fat or something. There was a lot of potential for other scenes that could have been better written. Getting some of the other actors back potentially, but maybe they couldn't. There's a lot to be said for that. Also, just wondering one thing as to why they couldn't have why this whole elaborate thing. There might be a reason. Maybe I just didn't understand the mechanics of the time travel, because they did seem to be hiding from all their counterparts. But there is the one thing that why didn't they just go back to the point that Thor was going to cut Thanos' head off right before the snap and just say, aim higher? Like, why didn't Thor just go back in time and tell himself, aim higher? And that, I understand there wouldn't be a film if that was the case, but I don't know. It feels like they could have worked with that rather than this whole elaborate thing. But once again, still a great film. What did you guys think? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Please like, subscribe, comment. As always, it's always very much appreciated. This has been Griever with your Avengers Endgame review. Hope you guys saw the movie. Hope you guys continue to watch my videos, and we'll see you back here next time. See ya.